Hey guys, welcome to the channel. In this beginner Blender tutorial, we are going to dive into the process of editing 3D character models from scratch. For modding purposes, we'll start by learning how to navigate in Blender, how to edit the model in edit mode and the sculpt mode, how to add textures and new objects to the model, even completely replace it. And after all that, we'll cover how to weight paint the model so it moves naturally with the armature. By the end of this video, you'll have all the skills to edit 3D character models in Blender and make any changes you want to them. And you'll be ready to dive into your own modding projects with confidence. So let's get started. Alright, let's start with the basics. Open up Blender and select General to start a new project. Next, select all the default objects in the scene and press Delete to remove them. Then from the top bar, switch to the Modeling workspace. Now we are ready to import the model. We need to import the model we want to edit or mod. For example, I use this model. To import this model, go to File, Import, and choose the file format that matches your model mesh file, FBX, OBJ, or whatever. Then locate the file on your disk, select it, and click Import. Once it's done, give it a few minutes, and your model will appear right here in the viewport. To move around your model, hold down the middle mouse button and drag the mouse to orbit, like this. You can also use the number pad to switch between different views like front, side, or top. And use the scroll wheel on your mouse to zoom in and zoom out. And if you need to move the view left or right, up or down, hold the Shift key and the middle mouse button at the same time, then move your mouse. Or use these options. Now let's talk about the Scene section in Blender, where your objects are imported and organized. When you import a model, it appears in the scene as a new object, which is typically located at the top right of your screen. This panel shows all the objects in your project, and you can easily select, hide, or delete or rename them from this panel. These are objects, and this is Armature. Armature is a skeleton structured inside the model, and it allows the model to move. Every animated game character has an armature that controls its motions. Hide them for now using this option. Now that we've imported our model and have a basic understanding of the scene, it's important to make sure each part of the model has a material before we start making any changes, so we can add textures. Here is how to do that. Select an object in Object Mode. Go to Material Properties tab, the red circle icon. In the Material Properties tab, click on the New button to create a new material. This will automatically assign it to the object. You can name the material to keep things organized, especially if you're working with multiple parts that need different textures. Now let's apply texture for this material we just made. Switch to Shading mode by going to the top of your window and selecting Shading. Once in Shading mode, you'll see a node editor at the bottom of your screen here, and a model in the 3D viewport. But make sure to change the viewport to this option. To apply a texture to a material, select the object, then select the material slot we just created in the Material Properties tab. Now in the Shader Editor bottom section, click Add, Texture, Image Texture, and put this somewhere here. Now in Image Texture node, click Open, and select your texture image file from your computer. Select the texture for that part of the object. Then connect the Image Texture node's color output to the base color of the principal BSDF shader, which should already be in place. Now the texture will apply to the object. Textures are not just about the base color, the diffuse texture, no. Models often come with additional texture maps such as normal map, which adds depth and fine detail without increasing the plugin count, without touching the 3D model. Alpha transparency map, used for things like hair, allowing parts of the texture to be transparent. To apply normal maps, first make an image texture node just like before and open it. Then select the normal map, which is this purple thing. Now, add a normal map node from vector. This one. Then connect them like this. And finally change this option to non-color. That's all. For alpha, also add an image texture node just like before and load the alpha texture, which is black and white. Connect the alpha output of the texture to the alpha input of the principal BSDF. Now, in the Material Properties tab, go to Settings and change Blend Mode, which is this, to Alpha Clip or Alpha Hashed, for realistic transparency. This is mostly for hair and eyebrows and eyelashes, nothing else. And that's how you apply textures. Now that we also applied textures, let's go ahead and jump into edit mode to start making changes to our model. To switch into edit mode, simply select your model, which part you want, and press tab on your keyboard, or use this panel to switch between modes. Simple as that. And this is edit mode. Now we are in edit mode. This is where we can modify the 3D model itself. You can select individual parts of your model by enabling the appropriate selection mode. Blender offers several selection options. Choose the one that best suits your need, depends on what you want. Then you can select and edit. For example, I want to delete specific parts of the model. Select the parts you wish to remove, then press the delete key on your keyboard and choose vertices from the menu to remove them. That's all. To select the vertices that are hidden behind the model, switch to wireframe mode. Instead of just turning the model, in the top left corner of the viewport, select this. This mode makes the entire model transparent, allowing you to select vertices from all sides. Pretty cool. Now, to modify the shape and the size of specific parts of your model, follow these steps. Select the parts you want to edit. Click and drag to select multiple vertices, edges, or faces. And if you accidentally select unwanted parts, hold Ctrl and select them again to deselect. And to add more selections, hold Shift and select additional parts of the model. Now, to resize or reshape, we can use these options here. Or press S and move the mouse to scale. Press G and move the mouse to move it. Press R to rotate it. That's how it works. But there is an option called proportional editing, which allows for smoother and more natural transformations by affecting nearby geometry. Here is how to use it. Click the proportional editing button at the top of the viewport, or press O on your keyboard to enable it. Now, try to edit again. Press G to move, S to scale, R to rotate. You'll notice a halo around the selection, representing the influence area. Scroll the mouse wheel up or down to increase or decrease the affected area to make this halo smaller or bigger. Now, let's move to a sculpt mode to shape the model like digital clay. In Object mode, select your model and switch to Sculpt mode. You'll see a variety of brushes and tools. The best way to learn how they work, what they do, is by experimenting. Try each one to see how they affect the model. This is the best way to learn. And if you make any unwanted changes, just press Ctrl+Z to undo. Now that we've covered editing the existing model, let's move on to adding new parts or replace the model entirely. If you want to add an accessory or replace parts of your model, you'll need to import a new object, right? So go to File, Import, and select the file type of your new model, then locate it and import it. Now that we've imported the new object, let's place it exactly where we want it. Click on the new object or its armature to make sure it's selected. Then use these options to move it, or press G to move it, R to rotate, and S to scale, until it fits properly. But what if we want to replace the entire model? If the new model have an armature, then this makes things even better and easier. So after positioning and scaling it as best we can use the armature to refine it further. Just select the armature, the new model's armature, and switch to pose mode from here, and adjust the bones to match the original character's pose. This makes everything lines up properly, better than before, better than always, especially for things like limbs and joints. To edit in pose mode, simply select a bone or several bones at the same time and use the same transform options, move, rotate, and scale to adjust it as needed. If you need a clear view of the armature inside the model, you can enable X-ray mode from here. Also, if you select the armature and go to the viewport display settings from here, you'll see several options to customize how the bones are displayed. This can be really helpful for better visibility and control while adjusting the pose. The more accurately we align the new model with the original one, the better the result will be. So take your time with this step. And when editing in pose mode, if you switch to edit mode, your change might disappear. To fix this, select your object, go to wrench icon, modifiers tab, and under armature modifier, enable these two options. This will make sure your pose adjustments stay in place and be visible. Okay, now that we have the new object, or the whole new model, in place, we need to attach it to the original armature so it moves with the original model's armature. Before we move forward, we need to get rid of the new model's armature. We only want to keep the original character's armature since that's the one will be used in the game. To remove the new model's armature properly, follow these steps. We need to apply the modifiers for the new objects. Select each new object that we have, and go to wrench icon, modifiers tab. Then click on the armature modifier. Then select apply, like this. Repeat this for all new objects. Make sure all of them are applied. After this, we need to delete the vertex groups for the new objects. To do this, select each new object, go to the green triangle icon, object data properties, and from there, delete the vertex groups like this. Make sure to repeat this process for all other new objects. Okay, we are ready for next step. Select the new armature, press Ctrl plus A, and choose Apply All Transforms. Once that's done, the new model is no longer linked to its armature, so we are ready to delete it. Select armature and press Delete key, and it will be deleted. Done. Now we are at the final step of modding the character in Blender, weight painting. We need to transfer the weight data from the original game model to the new model, since we are making mods for this specific character. When transferring weights, it's important to match corresponding parts, like arms to arms, legs to legs, head to head, and so on. If we are replacing the entire model, it helps to join all the new objects into a single mesh. This makes the weight paint much simpler. To do this, select all the objects you want to merge. Hold Ctrl and click each one. Then go to Object menu and select Join. Now you have a single object to work with. For the best results, we should also make sure the original model matches this structure as well. If the original model's head and torso are separated, but the new models are joined, it's best to join the original ones as well. This keeps both models aligned properly, ensuring a smoother weight transfer without any issues. Now let's transfer weights. In object mode, first select your original object, then hold Shift and select your new object. If you're selecting from the outliner panel here, hold Ctrl instead of Shift. But if you're in viewport, hold Shift. With both objects selected, first the original one, second the new one, switch to weight paint mode from here. Your new object should turn blue like this. At the top, open the Weights menu tab and select Transfer Weights. Now you'll see the Transfer Weight Data tab. Open it and adjust the settings. Vertex Mapping, set to nearest face interpolated. Destination Layers, set to Active. Source Layers, set to by name. Once that's done, go back to Object mode. Final step, applying the armature. Select your new object, go to wrench icon, the modifiers tab, and find the armature modifier. It's inside deform. Then add one. Now here in the armature object section, select the original armature, the one controlling the original model. Done. Now let's test it. Select the armature and switch to pose mode. And try moving the model. Select some bones and try to move it. If they move with the model, then you did it right. It should work perfectly. As you can see, it does. Now you can delete the original objects. Simply select them and press delete to get rid of them. But be careful not to delete armature, as it's still needed to control the new model. And if you want to keep any part of the original objects, you can. And that's it, your model is ready to go. Now let's troubleshoot. If the model doesn't move properly or looks weird somehow, don't worry, there are ways we can fix this. Start by normalize weights. Select your new object and switch to weight paint mode. Open the weights menu and select normalize all. This will balance the weight distribution and may fix the issue. But sometimes you may need to manually adjust the weight influence to fix this. So select the bone that controls the problematic area. Go to the Object Data Properties tab, the green triangle icon. Find the Vertex Groups section. This lists all the bones linked to the model. Look for the bone that controls the area with issue. If the arm is not moving correctly, then select the arm bones. Now use the brush tool to paint over the affected area. If a part is moving too much, reduce the weight and paint it with lower value. If a part isn't moving enough, increase the weight. Paint it with higher value. You can also adjust the brush strength and radius for finer control. Okay, this model is now ready to export and be used as a mod, or for anything else. This guide was specifically made for modding, and no matter which game you're modding, these steps are crucial. That's why I created this tutorial, and I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave in comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.